This guy had destroyed English football for fun.
Held off by Ruben Diaz. The arrival of Rashford! Oh,
wow!
Marcus Rashford, who loves to score in a Manchester derby!
You know, he's a Manchester lad. He's the one player who's got a chance to go and get my record there. And
30 goals and 11 assists for Manchester United across domestic and European competitions were a statement of class from a star who was only 24 years old.
Marcus Rashford, who I think has taken his game to an entirely different level. Always a hard worker, always a dangerous player, but wasn't always the finisher. Wasn't always the guy who provided that final touch. And now he has turned his career from a player who, again, would get in good position but not always finish, to a player who gets in good positions and now we expect him to finish. In fact, we're surprised when he doesn't. That's how good of a season he's had individually and how much of a game changer he has become for Manchester United.
The hope that all of England had placed their bets on for the future of Manchester United.
That comes with confidence, and I think Marcus, he's 25 years of age. Sometimes lads, maybe this is where he's peaking now. The last few years he's played a lot of games for United. He's played in big games for England. Sometimes the penny drops for a player in terms of his decision making and putting ball in the back of the net. And they've kind of needed him.
But everything changed in the blink of an eye.
One thing is you are young and you don't have enough minutes. One thing is you are young and you never play. Another thing is you are young and you play since you are 18. With 21 years old, he has probably more matches in the Premier League, in the national team, in the World Cup, in the Euros, in the Champions League, in the Europa League, than some play with 24, 25. So for me, the point is not his age. For me, the points are his qualities. And for me, he is potentially a very good player. He's a very good player in some models of play. He's a very good player in some positions. As a target man, as a number 9, I don't think he has these 30 goals that a top striker has.
Our team, you can look at our team and imagine the profile of the players, Now imagine a talent like Rashford. Our team should be so much better with Rashford. But this Rashford, he has to change. If he change, we are more than welcome to put a talent like Rashford. And we need it. But in this moment, I think it's really clear that we have to set some standards. That's all. We are waiting for Marcus if he wants really, really bad. That's the only thing. So it's you try to make like something personally. It's not personal. I have nothing against Marcus. I just have to make the same rules for everybody. And that for me, it's so simple. It's always the same answer.
He's a good player. He's not a great player. He's been a really good player for Manchester United. It is time for him to leave the club, but I just think a partner of the ways is inevitable at some stage, and I think for Manchester United and Rashford, the quicker that comes, the better.
Persistent injuries at Aston Villa, and now, even when he thinks that he has found his place, but the team still doesn't want him.
This is a mad saga. We all thought it was done, ended the season well, scored a huge goal, winning the league. It all looked rosy, looked like a partnership, like a marriage made in heaven. And all of a sudden, it changes. Dynamics change. Anthony Gordon signs for £70+ million. Same position, same nation, nationality, same England squad. He signs for Barcelona. But where does that leave Marcus Rashford?
Same position, both from England. Yet Barcelona are willing to spend €70 million instead of €30 million.
The best Marcus Rashford against the best Anthony Gordon, Marcus Rashford wins all day long. If you're Marcus Rashford, you're going to be really peed off.
The only option that he has right now is to return to Manchester United, but they also don't want him either.
Barcelona, Marcus Rashford, no more fan. Rashford, your name. Rashford, don't even think of your mind, sir.
So what the hell is happening to Marcus Rashford? If you had to summarise Rashford's 9 years at Manchester United in a single sentence, he was the best player in England, then disappeared, reappeared, and faded away again in an endless cycle. The 2022-23 season marked his final peak with 30 goals and a record-breaking contract in the club's history.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was asked whether or not he could see similarities between Rashford and Ronaldo. And he said, yes, I can. I think I can see similar attributes, athleticism, body shape, and perhaps the most important one, attitude. Now,
they're both quick players. They both can score. They've got that free kick. They've got pace.
Yeah.
He's probably seen them. They've probably got all the same kind of data, from when Ronaldo was there to what Rashford is now. So they're probably linking it up, and Probably the comparison could be.
But immediately afterward, everything completely collapsed. That collapse officially hit rock bottom in January 25 following a 1-0 victory over Fulham, when Ruben Amorim not only dropped Rashford, but did something even worse by publicly comparing him to Jorge Vital, the 63-year-old goalkeeping coach who had retired from playing 24 years earlier before declaring that Vital would be more useful on the pitch than Rashford.
If things don't change, I will not change. It's the same situation for every player. If you do the maximum, if you do the right things, we can use every player. And you can see it today on the bench. We miss a little bit like pace to go, to change the game, to move some pieces, but I prefer like that. I will put Vital before I put a player that don't give the maximum every day. So I will not change in that department.
It was the harshest psychological blow a manager could deliver to a player in front of the entire media, directly and without the slightest hint of subtlety. And so, in that very same January of 2025, his only remaining path was to leave Manchester United on loan to Aston Villa before eventually making the move to Barcelona. At Barcelona, Rashford achieved things that many believed he was no longer capable of achieving, contributing to 28 goals across all competitions and helping the club win La Liga for a second consecutive season. Making 49 appearances proved that he'd completely escaped the shadow of being a backup option or a decorative piece, officially becoming a concrete and reliable solution on the left flank.
Yeah, for us, important player. So Deco and I, we spoke before the season what we need, and we need a player like him. So happy to have him here in Barcelona.
Rashford himself publicly expressed his desire to stay.
Are you going to stay? Do you think so? I don't know. I am not position but if I was, I would stay. So we will see.
His teammates repeatedly urged the club to keep him, and accepting a 40% wage reduction to secure a loan move was clearly not the decision of someone who came merely for a casual adventure. Yet everything changed completely when Barcelona suddenly signed Anthony Gordon for a fee of €70 million that could rise to €80 million.
It does leave a question for Marcus Rashford, though. Obviously, Gordon arriving, he plays on the left, can play through the middle as well. Rafinha also plays on the left. So what will happen with the Manchester United winger? Barca, of course, have an option to sign him this summer for €30 million, although they want to negotiate that down with Manchester United. They also need Rashford to take a pay cut. And as was the case with, the Alvarez, Pedro and Gordon deals, the club not closing the door on that one, although it's hard to see them going back in for Rashford, who had a decent first season here at Spotify Camp Nou, if they do get a deal over the line for Gordon.
The arrival of such an expensive signing indirectly exposed a truth that many people tend to overlook when discussing this story. While public debate remained focused on the €30 million figure, financial calculations and off-field controversies, the core reason was sitting right on Hansi Flick's tactical board, where Rashford simply no longer fit as a natural piece of the puzzle. When looking at the way Flick constructs his team, it becomes clear that the left wing in his system is not merely a position, but a complete operating machine. The player occupying that role must press relentlessly from the front, constantly attack the half spaces to stretch defensive structures, be ready to overlap or provide cover whenever Balde pushes forward, and handle an enormous defensive workload during transition. Rafinha represents the perfect embodiment of that demanding philosophy, contributing 34 goals and 22 assists last season, proof that the role is not merely about attacking output, but rather a combination of a tireless pressing machine and an elite killer instinct. Rashford is not a high-pressing machine by nature. He is the type of forward who needs the ball at his feet, needs space, and needs open grass ahead of him to unleash his pace. Something he executed brilliantly within Erik ten Hag's defensive, transition, and channel running system at Manchester United. However, a possession-heavy philosophy averaging 69% possession under Hansi Flick is clearly not the environment where he can truly flourish. That philosophical incompatibility is precisely why Hansi Flick was determined to bring Anthony Gordon to Camp Nou.
It's a maximum target. Good ball in for Gordon, and that's his first goal for Newcastle United. And the visitors take an early lead. Fresh from securing Champions League football, they have...
Anthony Gordon is in for Newcastle United! He started his career.
Looking at what Gordon achieved for Newcastle United last season, with 17 goals and 5 assists in 47 appearances, it becomes clear that statistics alone are not what the German manager is seeking. What Flick truly craves is the English forward's skill set.
I don't think it's that surprising when you look at Gordon's numbers this season. 17 goals for Newcastle, of which 10 of them were in the Champions League. Only Kylian Mbappe and Harry Kane scored more in the Champions League this season. So look, that will have alerted the likes of Bayern Munich and Barcelona. The numbers are very good. And he's a player who can play across a number of positions. Wide left is probably his favourite, but he can also play out on the right-hand side, and he can play as a central striker as well, and showed that to good effect for Newcastle.
A player who presses aggressively, willingly tracks back, consistently attacks the space behind defensive lines, and does so with persistence and precision. Most importantly, Gordon possesses exceptional off-the-ball intelligence, something that is considered a minimum requirement within Hansi Flick's tactical philosophy. According to Barca Universal, Gordon's work rate would immediately help Barcelona maintain defensive pressure from the front. He presses with aggression, tracks runners consistently, and reacts quickly during defensive transitions. That tactical understanding explains why Hansi Flick is so eager to sign Gordon, not because the player possesses superior individual numbers compared to Rashford. According to Goal, Rashford's raw statistics this season were actually better, with involvement in 28 goals compared to Gordon's 22. The English forward scored 14 goals and provided 14 assists, a level of productivity that many elite La Liga wingers could not match, whereas Gordon scored 17 goals but registered only 5 assists. But football has never been a simple mathematical equation, and Flick is not looking to buy a statistical certificate. What he wants is Gordon's outstanding off-the-ball movement. At 25 years old, Gordon is 3 years younger than Rashford, a gap significant enough to create the difference between a valuable long-term asset and a potentially risky transfer investment. While Gordon has an entire promising 5-year contract ahead of him, Rashford is approaching 29 and watching his resale value steadily decline with time. More importantly, Gordon arrives without any baggage from the past, without controversial footnotes attached to his name, without any manager ever needing to hold a press conference to explain why he was excluded from the squad. The former Newcastle star arrives at Barcelona as a completely clean slate, occupying a similar position and producing almost identical output to Rashford while helping the club minimise risks in dressing room management. Barcelona's willingness to spend up to €70 million on Gordon for subsequently refusing to sign Rashford permanently for €30 million proves that the vast gap between those two figures is not a story about statistics, but a story about long-term trust. With Anthony Gordon officially signed, Rafinha firmly established as the starter, and Lamine Yamal nailed down on the right wing, the biggest question becomes where Rashford fits into Barcelona's plans for the 2026-27 season. According to assessments from World Soccer Talk and Diario Sport, the brutal answer is nowhere at all, a reality that exists not because the English forward is not good enough, but because Barcelona's squad structure has become overcrowded.
Just think about it. Lamine Yamal will play on the right-hand side. As of right now, the center forward would be Ferran Torres. On the left-hand side, it could be Rafinha, it could be Fermin Lopez. And if it is Fermin Lopez, then Rafinha plays underneath, and they would interchange positions. And neither one of these guys, not Marcus Rashford and not Anthony Gordon, would play ahead of Rafinha, or would play ahead in the structure that I just mentioned, would play ahead of Fermin Lopez. So, again, seems like a questionable decision for a player that seems to be more about squad depth than he does about being a difference maker right away.
The left wing already belongs to an irreplaceable Rafinha, with Gordon ready to step in as the perfect for the system, while the right side remains the untouchable territory of Lamine Yamal. On top of that, the club is actively negotiating to bring Julian Alvarez in as its new centre forward. This squad structure means that if Rashford wants to play, he will be forced to move into a central role or switch to the right wing, two positions that have never been natural launching pads for his skill set. And Hansi Flick is absolutely not the type of manager willing to compromise his entire system just to accommodate a single individual. That is precisely why the Catalan Giants only wanted to extend another loan deal rather than sign him permanently, a move that showed they needed short-term flexibility rather than a long-term commitment, much like choosing to rent an affordable seasonal apartment instead of buying an entire house outright. However, Manchester United flatly rejected that proposal by issuing an ultimatum, €30 million or nothing. And in that very moment, Rashford's door to remain at Camp Nou officially slammed shut. Looking at reality right now, with Marcus Rashford currently in West Palm Beach, Florida, participating in England's training camp, the 2026 World Cup has already started. Amid that atmosphere of anticipation, Gary Lineker, a man who once wore the Barcelona shirt and deeply understands the stories of both clubs, recently stated that both Rashford and Gordon will have opportunities to play at this World Cup. However, the English legend admitted that he leans toward Gordon claiming the starting spot because of his endless energy, relentless pressing ability, and tactical profile that aligns perfectly with the system Thomas Tuchel is building. The harsh reality is becoming increasingly clear. Even in England colours, Gordon is gradually taking Rashford's place, leaving behind a haunting question about where the forward's future lies once the World Cup campaign comes to an end. Predictions regarding the English forward's future are now splitting into several completely different directions once the World Cup concludes. The first option is Arsenal or Bayern Munich, with Goal reporting that Arsenal are closely monitoring Rashford as a potential reinforcement on the left wing due to Gabriel Martinelli's inconsistency, while Bayern Munich are also interested but would require him to accept a wage reduction. That makes the tournament in the United States his greatest opportunity to throw that door wide open if he performs brilliantly. A more financially realistic scenario is a battle between Aston Villa and Tottenham, with both clubs reportedly contacting Rashford's representatives immediately after Barcelona rejected the €30 million valuation. Villa was the place where he rediscovered himself, while Tottenham are desperately searching for pace in wide areas. Meanwhile, PSG and AC Milan are also keeping tabs on the forward according to Caught Offside, with the French club looking to restructure its attack and Milan seeking a versatile offensive player. Yet the biggest obstacle remains his £325,000 per week salary, a figure that even Barcelona found difficult to swallow. However, another brutal reality could still unfold if Rashford performs poorly at the World Cup. No club is willing to pay the €30 million fee, and he refuses to lower his wage demands. In that scenario, he would be forced to return to Old Trafford and face a Manchester United under Michael Carrick, who is busy rebuilding the club from the ground up, where a completely new dressing room may no longer have room for a star carrying so much baggage in his personal file. All of these turbulent possibilities expose a bitter paradox. Marcus Rashford contributed to 28 goals and helped Barcelona win the Liga, proving that he is fully capable of rediscovering elite form. Yet at the age of 28, when compared to a 25-year-old Anthony Gordon with a more relentless pressing style and a profile that fits the system better, Rashford has been forced to accept the reality that the club chose the younger man instead of him. This is not the story of a bad player, it is the tragedy of a gifted talent who lacked the consistency required for clubs to place absolute trust in him. Now, as his resale value gradually declines over time, the question is no longer whether Rashford is good enough. The question is whether he is worth a long-term investment, and right now the answer from Barcelona and the transfer market appears to be the same cold rejection. A biography line erased, a season concluded, and one major question still unanswered. The 2026 World Cup represents the final stage for the English forward to save his career. If he shines, the market will open its doors. If not, history may remember him only as a flame that burned brilliantly in 2016 and 2023 before fading away just short of true maturity. That is the saddest story in football, not the story of a failure, but of a man who came so very close to greatness. If you enjoy our video, don't forget to hit like to help this video reach to other football lovers, and hit the subscribe button to follow for more interesting videos about football stories. See you in the next video.